avid listeners, thanks again for tuning into Sin's Workshop. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about Flamefall by Rosaria Munda. It's the sequel to Fireborne, the second novel in the Aurelian cycle series. So it picks up right after the events of Fireborne. Lee has just gotten back from defeating and killing his cousin. So he's still kind of reeling from this battle. And one of the key things in this is he and Annie have just discovered that he was not meant to survive the revolution, that he was supposed to die alongside his family. So this is creating a lot of tension between him and Annie because he has just realized that he chose a side. He chose a side that wanted him dead versus family. Now, what I really do think is interesting with the story is he stands by his choice, not because he likes the way the revolution went, but he does see the difference in society. He does see that there was a great inequality that was going on. He realizes, his father was not a good guy. He was a great father, but as a king, he was not a good king. He was pretty ruthless, and there was such a difference in class from the upper class to the lower class. So he stands by the choice that he made because when he encounters his cousin, he sees that she kind of thinks the same way her father did, that peasants and everyone is lesser than them. And he's just like, that's wrong. So you really do like Lee a little bit more in this novel. I liked him in the first novel, but I don't really think we got to see, push comes to shove, his characterization with the storytelling. I don't think we as readers saw that enough in the first book, and we're seeing it now more so. We're seeing how he wants equality, and he's seeing how this new regime with this food shortage, there's a rationing system. So instead of just giving everyone, the same amount of food, depending on your metals test, and that was the test to kind of determine where your standing is in society is. There's iron, bronze, silver, gold. You get less rations the lower you are, and the higher you are, you get more rations typically. It is a fair system in practice, but you also have to think, well, the ones who are going to get the gold and silver are kind of going to be the upper class citizens because they're a little bit more educated, whereas the people who are going to get bronze and silver, they're the lower class. They're going to keep staying lower class. Is it possible for them to rise out of the ranks? Completely, absolutely. Annie and Lee were in the orphanage when they took their test, and they both got gold. So it is, in essence, in practice, a fair system, but to determine rationing based on that system is starting to show the inequality of this situation. And the reader, you're seeing what Lee is seeing. You're seeing how this new regime is falling into the same traps of the old regime. You're seeing it. You're seeing how they're putting the wealthy above everyone else. So you're once again creating this bridge of inequality, and Lee's not standing for it. He's just like, no, not gonna do it. And then you see Annie, and this puts them at odds because Annie's the new first writer. He gave up his badge to her once again as a move of solidarity to prove he was on the revolution side and not the exiled noble side. So he gave his first writer status to her. She's a good first writer, but she gets a little lost in the power. She is so caught up in how the system was fair to her that she's not really seeing the unfairness of the society now. She's just like, no, this isn't how you do things. She's like, well, they tried doing things the right way, got them nowhere. That's pretty much what Lee is saying to her. It's kind of like that constant argument between them throughout the novel, and you kind of just want to smack Annie sometimes. And I loved Antigone in the first novel. I do still like her now, but she's always so serious, always so dour, and she's just very much just doing what has to be done. But she doesn't step back. She doesn't take a step back to look at the full scope of the situation. She's just immediately aggressive with how she handles the situation because she thinks she needs to be that way. She thinks that's how it has to be. She's the enforcer now. You know, she's making the same threats now that Lee's father made against her family. And so you're seeing that shift through her personality. You're seeing how she is recognizing. It takes her pretty much the entire novel to see what Lee's talking about, the inequality of the situation. It takes her pretty much the entire novel. And again, you just want to smack her. I most certainly did. I just wanted to slap her across the face and be like, will you open your eyes? Like, so I do like this tension with them. And I do like how the story is evaluating how you can start a revolution for all the greatness. You know, you can start a revolution to create equality and to free yourselves of oppressors. But you have to be careful not to fall back into those same traps. And that's what's happening here. This new world, they have fallen into the traps. And that's the problem here. Lee is seeing it, and Annie doesn't see it. She's not quite opening her eyes. She's too focused on the battle. She's caught in just the battle. And she's caught also in New Pythos, you know, with helping Griff and his people. She wants to give them the tools to start their own revolution. And this is where Munda, she introduces readers into that third perspective of Griff. Griff is a bisexual character, which I think is a great representation for the LGBTQ community, just because of how he's written and how his relationships are different. You get to see his relationship with Julia. You get to see his relationship with Dello. They're both so different. One was just using him and treated him okay, but everything he did kind of came with a cost. You know, nothing was free from her. And then you see the more wholesome one with Dello, who kind of suspects his treachery, but keeps his mouth shut, and in a way helps him unknowingly, or maybe it is knowingly. He just knows that Griff deserves better and that the humble writers deserve better, because that's what they call them. Of course, you know, the triarchy that has been exiled to New Pythos, they don't have enough people for their dragons, so they decide to go to the peasants, as you will, and give them dragons because they want to build an army. They want to build an army so they can re-invade and take back their kingdom. But many of them are cruel. Many of them don't care. They are just all caught in their... They're all reeling, of course, from the revolution. They want to snuff any bit of revolution that might pop up right in the bud because they don't want to recreate it. But they're not exactly fixing their own mistakes either. They're recreating their mistakes, and they're doing it in a more aggressive way, which alienates them from their humble writers. You know, they're keeping their humble writers controlled by muzzling their dragons and through fear, threatening their family, even subtle threats. So it's understandable why Griff wants to destroy them. You want him to, actually, because some of them are just like Ixion. Oh god, I hate him. Can't wait till he gets what's coming to him. You're seeing it. You see why a revolution had to take place, because if these were the people that were in power in the first place in Calliope, then no wonder a revolution happened. A revolution is going to happen again because they just remade all the mistakes. Instead of being better, they got worse. So Griff, with his other fellow humble writers, they've decided, okay, yeah, we're just gonna do our own little revolution. And he does so with the help of Annie. So I think Annie's just so focused on kind of helping Griff, because if she helps Griff, she can destroy New Pythos. She can destroy the Triarchy. She can save her kingdom. She can save Calliope. It's a good strategy, but she's also neglecting her own homeland. She's kind of turning a blind eye to the situations going on there because she's so invested in this bigger picture goal. But by focusing on just this kind of bigger picture goal and ignoring her homeland, she's hurting herself because she's allowing this inequality to build in her own homeland. You know, this dissent, this anger, these new sparks of revolution that are coming up. And so it's a really riveting tale, and it has a lot of tension. It has a lot of good storytelling to it. It really is amazing to see how the characters have evolved from the first novel to see where they are now. Like, just Lee's journey itself is so incredibly powerful, because he went from pretty much watching his entire family get massacred to growing up on the streets. You would think he would hate the people who killed his family, but you know what? He didn't. He doesn't. I mean, he kind of hates him now because he discovers, oh, I wasn't saved because I was a young kid. I was supposed to die too. He hates him now, but he likes the revolution. He calls himself the revolution's son, and he is a son of the revolution. He really does believe in what the revolution stands for, in creating equality and making sure everyone is fed. So you just kind of really gravitate towards Lee in this novel. I think in the first novel you gravitated more towards Annie as a reader, but now just seeing Lee's journey here, his emotional journey, his mental journey, his just seeing everything about his character development really does allow him to connect to the reader more than he did in the first novel. And that's not to say he didn't in the first novel. Again, I loved Fireborne. I thought it was such a great novel, which is why I was so excited to read this one. But here, the toll, of choosing a side, you see how it grates on him, and how he's just like, I couldn't have just killed my family for a farce. He's like, no, like, I believe in this revolution. I believe in equality, so I'm going to fight for equality. Even if it means putting him in odds with some of his closest friends. And that's what I think is really good with the storytelling. That's what I thought was very good with the storytelling, in fact. And to see all these characters, push come to shove, I really do think it really is a powerful, impactful story overall. So I'm going to go ahead and give Flamefall 4 to 5 stars. Didn't completely blow me out of the water, but it really was a really good study on revolutions and regimes and history repeating. You have to look at history. You have to remember history so that you don't make the same mistakes and so you don't get worse. And I really do think Lee's doing that and Annie's not. So you're really seeing the characters push against each other, which I think is really good for their development. Please remember to purchase the book from your local bookseller. If you can't purchase the book, check it out from your local library and just leave a review for the author, whether you read it or not, or whether you buy it or not. Reviews are great for the author, and they love them. Just don't tag them in negative reviews, because as a writer, like, we know, we understand, Not everyone's going to like our books, but it kind of does darken our spirits whenever we see a nasty review. So just remember to leave a good review if you like the book for the author on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your own website, just like me. And please don't forget to support this podcast by liking it, subscribing to it, and sharing it with all your book-loving friends. You can also become a supporter on Anchor FM, my recording platform. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.